Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I am just leaving the Flying J rest area where I stayed overnight. There's free Boondock camping there, which is awesome. And I'm just outside of Winslow, so I'm going to head into town and check out the downtown area. There's a tribute to the Eagles down there, and the reason is the song Take It Easy, which I think was released in 1972, and I believe it was their first single. And it had that line in it that went like this: well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. So that line contributed to Winslow deciding to make this downtown tribute. And it's pretty amazing. There's statues, murals. There's a street named after Glenn Frey, I think. It's pretty awesome. And then after that, we're going to try to get to Flagstaff. Got to do a little shopping there. I'm not sure what kind of activities I'm going to do there. And then continue west as far as we can get today. And so that's the agenda for today. So stick around. Let's see what happens. Okay, folks, this is what it looks like coming into downtown Winslow. There's a church on the left. There's an old Texaco on the right there. Let's see, it's got one old pump sitting out front there, which is cool. All right, folks, here I am in Winslow, Arizona, and standing on a corner, and across from me there is a standing on the corner Winslow, Arizona store. You can see the huge emblem in the middle of the street there, and across the way, that wall is actually a facade, and you can see the mural of the red truck in the window, and there's actually a flatbed Ford red truck right there, which is a tribute. So we're going to go over and check that out. If you care to buy a brick, you can actually do that. This is what they look like. Here's another view of the flatbed Ford. Of course, people feel compelled to put their stickers on them. And here's the roadside attraction sign. And over there are the eagle wings that you can pose by. Take it easy, it says. And yes, there is a flatbed cafe, and it looks like that's John Wayne and Marilyn Monroe up in the window peering out, and then a door to nowhere. Okay, there's the flatbed Ford. The applause in the background is music being played, but I'm trying to catch it between songs. If you look at it from this angle, you can see the standing on the corner store there, and there's the memorial and the red truck, and you see that the wall for the park is just a facade, and then if you scan over behind the wall is a larger park. Next up is the La Posada Hotel, located in the La Posada Historic District. The district is located at 200 East 2nd Street and dates from 1930. It was listed as an 11-acre historic district by the National Register of Historic Places on March 31st, 1992. It includes the Winslow Santa Fe Station, as well as the La Posada Hotel and Gardens, a Fred Harvey Company hotel designed by Mary Jane Coulter in 1929 and restored in 1997 by artist Tina Mion and her husband Alan Affeldt. The hotel also includes a museum for Mion's art, opened in 2011. This historical site is listed for architectural criteria. This looks like a library, which is very cool. Place to sit, read books. Just a small little room on the side. Really gorgeous. Here's a section of books on Route 66. Many, many books. Another section with books on Native American art. This is the reception area and gift shop. It's really cool. And here's the restaurant and bar area. Unbelievable. The train is going by right in the background. The rooms are named after famous people that have stayed here. You might know this guy. And here's another fellow who was fairly famous. Another recognizable fellow. And these are all folks who actually stayed here. So all the rooms are named after a celebrity. And there are many more down there, but we won't go over them all. There's the upstairs. Here's another cool feature of Winslow. This is the 9/11 Remembrance Garden. There's a sign there, and then those two posts there represent the Twin Towers. And the idea is we don't cave to terrorists, and it's dedicated to that concept. Okay, so that was 3 really cool things to do in Winslow. The Stand on the Corner Take It Easy Park, the La Posada Hotel, and the 9/11 Remembrance Garden. All 3 just really great things to see here in Winslow. There's more to do, but those 3 are really 3 really good things that don't take a lot of time, but are really excellent. So thumbs up for Winslow. Next up is a little side trip to a place called Meteor Crater Natural Landmark. It's 5 or 6 miles off the road, and you're going to get on a little road and it has these signs that tell you how close you're getting to the impact. And although I think it's totally worth a visit, it's a little bit expensive. It's about $29 for the entry fee, but it's totally worth it. They give you a tour. There's a nice museum, great lookouts, so it's a fun experience. Just to give you a sense of scale, it is said that you could fit about 20 football fields at the bottom of the crater, and yet the meteor itself was only 1 or 2 football fields in size when it impacted. And the other question people have is, where's the meteor? Well, it tends to just blow up and vaporize and turn into tiny chunks, and the largest chunk they found was a boulder about the size of a balled up human. So there are various observation decks from which you can view the crater, which are really nice. Looking down from the rim, you can see an old boiler down there and some mining equipment. There's also a fake spaceman, which is kind of cool. And also inside, there's a fantastic museum with a lot of information about the craters. And unfortunately, our tour was canceled due to weather conditions. Instead, the scientist gave us a little talk, and she was fantastic.
Impact, this giant mushroom cloud was created, shooting molten rock and debris out in every direction. Everything within a 15-mile radius of here was killed. Nothing survived. Humans weren't in this area at the time, but there were larger animals like camel, bison, mastodon. 40 miles out, you're still getting hit with hurricane-force winds, and 100 miles out, you could still feel the shock wave of impact here. The initial depth that was created was over 1,400 feet. 60,000 years ago when this happened, this area was a marshland, not a desert yet. There was plenty of water around. When the crater was formed, a shallow lake also immediately formed at the bottom. With that lake forming and all the debris falling back in, it filled in almost halfway. So looking at the crater from most pictures and even outside, it seems like it's a circle. But if you were to look at it straight down from an aerial view, you would see that it's actually more of a square. The reason for that is that the meteor coincidentally landed on 2 pre-existing intersecting fault lines. One of them runs from this back southeastern corner up to the northwestern, the other from the southwestern right underneath our visitor center. That fault line there actually runs all the way to California and connects to the San Andreas fault line. So if something really major were to happen out there, we could eventually feel something here. The diameter of the crater doesn't seem like it, especially when you're out there looking at it. North to south, 4,100 feet, just under a mile. East to west is a mile. The circumference, 2.5 miles around.
Turns out they were right to cancel the tour. When I left, there was slushy snow falling, and it was quite a wet and slippery experience getting out of there and back to I-40. Next up is a visit to the old town of Two Guns, which has the craziest history you can imagine. So I'll try to tell you the whole story, and it's a long one. Native artifacts found at the site have been dated from between 1050 and 1600 AD. As white settlers began to populate the area in the mid-19th century, Two Guns was recognized as an ideal place to cross Canyon Diablo, first by wagon, then later by vehicle. Two Guns was the site of a mass murder of Apaches by their Navajo enemies in 1878. Some Apaches had hidden in a cave at Two Guns to avoid detection, but were discovered by the Navajos, who lit sagebrush fires at the cave's exit and shot any Apaches Apaches trying to escape. The fire asphyxiated 42 Apaches, after which they were stripped of their valuables. The murder site was referred to as Death Cave. During the winter of 1879-80, Billy the Kid and his outlaw gang hid in the ruins of a stone house and corral at the west rim of Canyon Diablo across from Two Guns. In 1880, long before Two Guns was established as a settlement, the construction of the Santa Fe Railroad was progressing across Arizona. At the location where the rail line crossed Canyon Diablo about 3 miles north of Two Guns, construction was delayed while a trestle was built. A settlement populated by male work crews was established near the construction site and was named Canyon Diablo after the nearby canyon. The settlement quickly became a wild and lawless place as drifters, gamblers, and outlaws made their way into town. 4 men employed by the Hash Knife Ranch robbed a train at Canyon Diablo in 1889, then fled on horseback with $100,000 in currency, 2,500 new silver dollars, and 40,000 in gold coins, as well as silver watches, jewelry, and diamonds. A posse led by Sheriff Bucky O'Neill pursued the bandits but recovered less than $100 when the men were captured. Years later, after release from prison, one of the thieves disclosed that the stolen goods, along with their rifles, had been buried in the canyon rim near Two Guns. The location remains popular with treasure hunters. The National Old Trails Highway, called the Santa Fe Highway in Arizona, was built in 1907 and loosely followed the railway. The highway crossed the dry riverbed of Canyon Diablo at the Two Guns location and zigzagged up and down the embankment. In 1915, Canyon Diablo Bridge opened at the Two Guns crossing and was used until 1938 when a new bridge was built nearby. The first settler at Two Guns was Ed Randolph, who built a store next to Death Cave. In 1922, Earl and Louise Cundiff purchased 320 acres of land from Randolph at this location for $1,000 and built a store, restaurant, and gasoline pumps. Harry E. Miller leased the property from the Cundiffs in 1925 and began extensive construction. Calling himself Chief Crazy Thunder, Miller wanted to capitalize on the beauty of the canyon and the flow of passing tourists. Along the canyon rim, Miller erected a zoo with cages made of brick mortar and chicken wire. His zoo animals included mountain lions, cougars, Gila monsters, coral snakes, birds, and a lynx. A restaurant and Indian gift shop were open, and Miller cleaned out Death Cave, selling any Apache skulls found inside as souvenirs. For a fee, visitors were led on a tour that began at the Hopi house Miller had built, where rolls of colored bread were made and sold. Tourists then followed a paved path down the side of the canyon to a soft drink stand at the bottom. Next was a tour of the Death Cave, where Miller had installed electric lights and fake ruins of cliff dwellers. Flamboyant signs were placed along the highway, and Miller named his establishment Fort Two Guns as an homage to silent movie actor William S. Two Guns Hart, with whom Miller claimed to have previously worked. The Cundiffs applied for a post office under the name Two Guns in 1924, but it was refused. The post office was renamed Canyon Lodge. In 1925, Jim Rimmy Giddings opened a gas station and a cafe at Two Guns called Rimmy Jim's. In 1926, the highway designation was changed to U.S. Route 66. That same year, Cundiff and Miller had a disagreement about details of their lease, and Miller shot the unarmed Cundiff to death. He was later acquitted of the killing. The interior of Miller's store burned in 1929, and soon after, Louise Cundiff built her own tourist store. The following year, Miller left the state. Cundiff remarried, and in 1934 opened the Two Guns Texaco service station along a new alignment of Route 66. Behind it, they relocated the zoo, which closed prior to 1950. In 1938, a new bridge across Canyon Diablo was built, and Route 66 began following Interstate 40 at the Two Guns location. A more modern service station was built at Two Guns in 1963, and in the late 60s, a motel, Western Tavern, reptile exhibit, and zoo were added. Later, a Shell service station was built, and a KOA campground opened. The service station burned in 1971, and Two Guns began to decline. The ruins of many former structures remaining, including the trading post, campground, old cottages, zoo, burned out gas station. In 1968, Canyon Diablo Bridge was added to the National Register of Historic Places. Yikes, that was a long one, so thanks for sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. After Two Guns, I got back on the road for a short bit and stayed at the Twin Arrows Casino, where they offer free boondock camping. Yippee!